Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I love Pete Carroll. You know, Colin talks a lot about like if you're hiring a coach, would you hire an X's and O's guy or would you hire a kind of a culture builder? And one of the best culture builders in the history of the game is Pete Carroll. Like he did it at USC, did it in Seattle. He learned from his sort of early mistakes with the Jets and the Patriots and became an amazing culture builder. And, you know, he's got a ton of respect, and as do I for Chip Kelly. You know, Chip Kelly was the head coach here at UCLA. My son committed to play for Chip Kelly, got a tremendous amount of respect. Chip Kelly basically gave a big middle finger to the college football, you know, NIL, transfer portal, like just screw up that, you know, the NCAA, in his opinion, has had, and said, I'm getting out of here. Like, I don't want any part of this. I just want to coach football. I don't want to deal with all the other stuff. I want to get to the NFL. He didn't have a window. Bill O'Brien leaves Ohio State late to become the head coach at Boston College. And what happens? Chip Kelly gets to go just install his offense, call plays, and they win the national championship for Ryan Day. And I think football people understand. They have a ton of respect for, you know, yes, the tempo and the passing game and all that stuff that he was at Oregon, but he is a like kind of an old school pull a guard, pull a tackle, we're running trap, misdirection. And you know, if you're going to build it from the ground up foundationally with the run game, Pete Carroll clearly feels like he's the guy, and I think other people would agree.
Obviously,
Yeah. I actually am pretty excited about this hire for a few different reasons. Um, in my experience, you have a lot of football fans who are very, NFL fans. They either really are into college football or they're not. They're either just like 100% focused on the NFL. That's been my experience talking to people throughout this channel. So, I don't know how many Raiders fans are have updated perceptions of who Chip Kelly is, or if like some of their more experience is going to be like what he did with the Eagles and kind of where all that went out. But I think like it was obvious that Chip Kelly made mistakes in Philadelphia, right? He was not ready to be a head coach. His mentality, the way how he was, just his style. He treated those, professional athletes like they were like 18 years old, 19 years old. And it was a problem. He kind of came in there with just like an energy and an aura about him that was, not right it just wasn't. And, and it kind of failed spectacularly because of that. But the Philadelphia Eagles themselves were actually not a bad team, and they played well. And, they had the lead. Nick Foles was the quarterback. Nick Foles left the field with the lead against the Saints, in a playoff game. And they just ended up kicking a last second field goal to win the game. So it's like when you see other coaches like the Eberfluses of the world, the original, the coach who you had this year for the Raiders, like we've seen some of these teams really just not get any traction whatsoever. And so even though Chip Kelly was a failed head coach, he still also had a lot of success. And I think him now being an OC is such a great spot because he has nothing to do with the culture. He has nothing to do with that. That is all going to be 100% Pete Carroll. And now Chip Kelly gets to essentially be like the Cliff Kingsbury for the Commanders, the Ben Johnson for the Lions. And you can have tremendous success with that. You can have absolute tremendous success. And I think you have a very imaginative, innovative play caller and play designer, for that matter, with Chip Kelly. And I think it's just one of those things, too, that it just adds a little bit more juice with the Raiders, right? I think they're making such interesting moves here. Pete Carroll was not on my radar for the Raiders. It really wasn't. And then once the hire, I'm kind of like, you know what? This makes a lot of sense. This makes a lot of sense, especially when you're talking about going up against Andy and Sean Payne, etc. I'm like, this makes sense. And Harbaugh, and now getting Chip Kelly, I'm like, this also makes a lot of sense. Now, I'm still not entirely sure what the plan is from a quarterback perspective, like really what they're looking to do. Are they going to try to get a Sam Darnold? Are they I don't know, and I don't even really feel comfortable sharing any strong opinions in one way or the other, because I don't really want to be like Gardner Minshew is going to be the quarterback or Aiden O'Connell, and then they just go and get Sam Darnold. Like that's, to me, that's, that's a waste of content. I don't want to just create content for the sake of creating content. So I'm kind of just like leaving that to the side, because my last Raiders video, I kept saying so much of this is going to depend on the OC, who's the OC, and I talked to people in the comment section. I was like, does Pete Carroll get to make that hire? Is it going to be more of management? Because each team is, for the most part, the head coach is the one who's going to make, the hire, but not always, especially Pete Carroll has a kind of a very specific, narrow contract. And, I don't know if there were certain stipulations where like, hey, we want to hire, you're going to be the head coach, but like, we're going to now go get the OC. And I, in that video, I kind of talked about like, are they going to have an OC who then is going to eventually take over the reins as a head coach? And like, that is interesting. Like, I don't know what Chip Kelly wants. He obviously wants to be in the NFL. Does he want to become a head coach again? My mind always goes to the answer is yes, especially for coaches that were not successful. A lot of people in the media try to paint this picture. We're like, hey, this guy just wants to be an OC. He only cares about the X's and O's. And like Colin says that a lot. And I'm always like, you're failing to understand that these guys, like, they want to be head coaches. They want to be the guy, and especially if they were in the NFL before and then failed, like, they want redemption. That's just who they are. Because he was like, maybe Ben Johnson doesn't want to be a head coach. Ben Johnson head coach. He's like, Cliff Kingsbury doesn't want to be a head coach. Cliff Kingsbury came out and said, yes, I want to be a head coach again. Like, that's what these guys want. So it's an interesting situation. If Chip Kelly is going to now be on track to potentially take over being a head coach for the Raiders after, the 3 years or so. So I don't know. There's just interesting things that are happening with the Raiders. And I think this is awesome. I've said this now in my last handful of Raiders videos. The one thing that I learned very quickly with this channel is just how passionate and how much the Raider fan base cares. And the beginning of the season, it was awesome to be able to, they got a couple interesting wins, and I was able to make some, positive videos about it and be like, okay, this is cool. Like, this team's going to be better than a lot of people thought. And then obviously things unraveled, and it was just like the comment section in those earlier videos, there was just such an energy and passion and excitement. And to me, again, I'm not telling you that, the Raiders are going to be predicted to win the division now and the Chiefs better be, looking over their shoulders for the Raiders, in 2025. But it just feels like they are making like actual moves. Like they're making moves that feel that they can legitimately work and that you can really start to get this team going in the positive direction. And like I keep emphasizing, the fans deserve it, man. The Raiders fan base is, if you build it, they will come. You give them a team, you give them a coach, you give them a culture, you give them energy, you give them wins, and that fan base is going to be there, and they are going to be there. And so, like, I always root for those fan base. I always root for those teams, because it's like, no, like, they're here, they want it, like, come on, like, let's do it. And it just, to me, there's so much optimism in this offseason. If they just ran things kind of back and, then you would be like, all right, like, what's going to change this year from last year? I don't know. You'd have to really be fighting to try to find something. This now feels like not only will this team be significantly better in the short term, but now also like they're legitimately planning for the future just to get better and better and better. There's still going to be some luck involved. With the quarterback position. Again, are they going to draft someone? Are they going to go out and get like a Sam Darnold or something? I don't have those answers. I don't want to speculate too much until more deeper insiders are kind of revealing some of that information, because, I find that a little bit, more genuine from just my perspective. So that's why I'm kind of continue to kind of just wait and see. But all in all, I think this is actually a really, really good and interesting move, and another move that I just didn't see, that I didn't see coming, honestly. I'm not good at predicting, what coordinator is going to be hired out of college in the NFL. That's just, that's not where my expertise lies. So as soon as I saw this, I was like, oh, this is fascinating. This is fascinating. And again, this hire felt intentional and not just like, oh, well, he was really good in college this past year, so let's hire him. Right? Like, this was an intentional hire. This wasn't just like, let's just take someone whose stock is really high in college right now and put him in the pros. Because you see teams do that. You see teams do that all the time, especially for like head coaching positions. And or even in the NFL, they just take whoever is a hot OC and they're like, all right, make him a head coach. And it's just like, sometimes that is absolutely the right move. Like the Chicago Bears hiring Ben Johnson is the right move. But other times it's kind of like, no, this guy's a popular OC, or this guy's having a good year in college doesn't automatically mean now that he's ready to be in the NFL or be a head coach, etc. This move, I always talk about intentionality. This actually feels intentional and like a high level move. Again, whether it works out or not, that is still always the gamble with any of these moves, but it's still, it still seems to make a lot of sense. So I'm happy for you, Raiders fans. I'm happy for you. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Raiders? Obviously, continuing with Pete Carroll's introduction, but now Chip Kelly. Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.